True crime documentaries often highlight cases of brutal violence, chilling betrayals, and twisted human nature. Some stories are hard to believe, but they are all too real. One such case that shocked the world is the story of Sarah McFarlane, a woman who endured 9 months of unimaginable torment, pain, and psychological abuse. Her story is one of survival, resilience, and an unrelenting desire to escape the hell she found herself trapped in. In this video, we'll unravel the chilling details of Sarah's nightmare, the horrifying person responsible, and how she managed to survive what seemed like an impossible situation. But what makes this case even more shocking is that Sarah's torment didn't happen in the dark corners of society. It happened in the heart of an affluent neighborhood, where the unimaginable took place under the guise of normalcy. The beginning of a fairy tale. Sarah McFarlane, a bright, ambitious woman, had always dreamed of a perfect life. She grew up in a loving family, had a strong educational background, and looked forward to creating a successful life. In her early 20s, Sarah met Richard Hayes, a charming man with an impressive career and a seemingly stable life. He was intelligent and successful, and they quickly fell in love. To Sarah, Richard was the perfect match. Their courtship was filled with romantic dates, grand gestures, and moments that felt like something out of a storybook. Richard was everything she thought she wanted in a partner: kind, generous, and loving. The couple quickly moved in together, and their lives appeared to be headed toward a happy marriage. But soon after they became engaged, the mask started to slip. Sarah began to notice small changes in Richard's behavior, things that didn't seem right. At first, it was subtle: an occasional mood swing, a strange remark, or an offhand comment that seemed a little too harsh. Sarah brushed these things off as quirks of a man under stress, but as the months went by, the behavior escalated. The first signs of abuse. It began slowly but steadily. Richard would make small, dismissive comments about Sarah's friends, telling her that she spent too much time with them and that he didn't like how they influenced her. He would tell her that her family didn't understand her and that she needed to spend more time focusing on their relationship. At first, Sarah didn't think much of it. She believed it was just the pressure of planning a wedding and starting a life together. But things took a darker turn when Richard started to control her daily routines. He would demand to know where she was going, who she was with, and what time she would be home. He even began to question her career, telling her that she was working too much and that her job was a distraction from what really mattered: their life together. Sarah felt trapped, but she still believed that these behaviors were part of a normal relationship. She tried to reason with Richard, but the more she did, the more isolated she became from the world she once knew. It wasn't long before the physical abuse began. What started with verbal insults and emotional manipulation eventually escalated to violence. Richard's mood swings became more erratic, and he began lashing out at Sarah, hitting her on several occasions. She tried to hide the bruises, convinced that she could keep things under control, but deep down, she knew something was terribly wrong. The living hell. 9 months of torture. By the time Sarah realized the full extent of what was happening, it was too late. Richard had isolated her from her friends and family, convincing her that they didn't have her best interests at heart. His control over her was complete, and Sarah found herself unable to escape. The physical abuse continued to escalate. Richard would lock Sarah in their home, forbidding her to leave. He took away her phone, preventing her from contacting anyone. The fear of what would happen if she tried to leave kept her paralyzed. But it wasn't just the physical abuse that haunted her. It was the psychological torment, the gaslighting, and the constant emotional manipulation. Richard would tell her she was crazy, that no one would believe her if she tried to speak out. Every day felt like a battle for Sarah's sanity. She became a shell of the person she once was. Her confidence crumbled, and she felt completely trapped in a living nightmare. She couldn't leave the house, she couldn't make decisions for herself, and she had no one to turn to. For 9 months, Sarah lived under Richard's control, enduring not just physical violence, but a constant, terrifying mental assault. The most disturbing part of it all was how Richard, despite his cruelty, would always act as though he was the victim. He would apologize, promise to change, and even buy Sarah gifts to try and make up for his behavior. But these moments of false kindness were short-lived. The cycle would start again: manipulation, violence, and then remorse. Each time, Sarah believed it would be the last time, but it never was. The turning point: a glimmer of hope. As the months passed, Sarah's physical and emotional state deteriorated. She had lost weight, become withdrawn, and no longer looked like the vibrant woman she once was. Yet, in the darkest moments of her captivity, something shifted within her. She realized that she could no longer live this way, that the love she had once felt for Richard was nothing but an illusion. One day, while Richard was out of the house, Sarah finally mustered the courage to make a plan. She knew she had to get away from him. Her only chance of survival was to escape. She managed to steal a phone from Richard's desk and secretly texted her sister, who lived out of state. In a brief message, Sarah wrote, "I need help. I'm scared. Please come get me." Her sister immediately called the authorities, and together they made plans to get Sarah out of the house. It was a risky move, but it was her only chance. When Richard returned home that evening, he was oblivious to the fact that his world was about to collapse. Sarah's sister arrived with the police, and with the help of law enforcement, Sarah was able to escape Richard's control. The aftermath: finding justice. The relief that Sarah felt upon escaping was indescribable, but the battle was far from over. Richard was arrested on charges of assault, battery, and emotional abuse. The investigation revealed the full extent of his crimes, and Sarah's story was not the first of its kind. Richard Hayes had a history of abusive relationships, and several previous partners came forward to share their own experiences with him. Richard was eventually convicted and sentenced to prison for his crimes. However, the psychological damage he had inflicted on Sarah would take much longer to heal. The road to recovery. The road to recovery for Sarah was long and fraught with challenges. She began therapy to help her process the trauma she had endured, and slowly she started to rebuild her life. Her journey was filled with setbacks, but through it all, Sarah remained determined to regain control over her life. She eventually became an advocate for survivors of domestic abuse, sharing her story publicly to help others in similar situations. Through her efforts, she inspired many other victims to find the strength to leave abusive relationships and seek help. A tale of survival. Sarah McFarlane's story is a stark reminder that abuse, both physical and psychological, can happen to anyone, regardless of their background, education, or financial status. The life she lived for 9 months in captivity was a nightmare, but her courage to escape and rebuild her life is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, it's never too late to seek help. No one should ever have to endure what Sarah went through. Thank you for watching this video on Dark Diaries. If you found Sarah's story moving or informative, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. Stay safe and always remember, help is available for those who need it.